And we are back, boys and girls, to part 2 of my epic first win video. This is Kosara, also known as Marventus, showcasing my first ever Zerg properly macroed victory, leading up from my series of failures that you can find on this channel. So let's get right to it. What do we have? We've got drones doing its thing correctly. I probably droned by this run, got lots of units moseying away. And then down we go to saturate our second expansion as well, which, as I said before, came in a little late. Now get a load of this. Creep. Creep, creep, creep. Wonderfully important stuff. Make sure you're always creeping forward with your creep. I'm thinking it might even be worth having a queen just to be running ahead and creeping a little bit extra, because this is so incredibly useful and was absolutely essential later on in the game. Another important thing, upgrades. The upgrades make a huge difference. Get them when you can. Whoa! My Zergling who was manning the tower was nuked, so from this I assumed that they were heading off into the left-hand direction or coming forward. Ah! A little Hellion harassment. Let's take a look at how this goes. They're swinging by my base, up they go, up they go. And there are roaches there. They take a little peek, they go around, and they actually do a little bit of damage to my mineral line. Now here I was a little bit late in moving my Zerglings. You see, they haven't moved anywhere. But the roaches make absolutely short work of them, and look at the speed on the creep. Creep and kill, marvelous, and away they go. Now look at this. I've got barely one row of roaches, and that's all she wrote. That is it, one row of roaches. And because of the creep and because of the speed that they move at, aside from those roaches and a handful of mutalisks, I don't need anything else to deal with this. That was the end of that. Well, and you can see over here that our Terran is busily expanding away and wasting a lot of money on all kinds of things like turrets, which I scared him into doing by sending my mutalisks on a little round. And this is something you really want to do. Go in with your mutalisks and mess around in their base, because they will wind up spending huge amounts of money on turrets, which is exactly what he's done here. Well, and this comes to bite him in the ass a lot later in the game, because the only thing I'm doing is macroing. Anybody who's confused about the word macroing, that means I'm gathering resources and building units and expanding to be able to make sure that I've got the best possible ability to have a good end game, which is really where Zerg shine. The fast and snappy runs and the cheese attempts don't work out too well for the Zerg. You want to hunker down, play defensive, and keep harassing them. And that tends to work out very well. Let's see, we have a scan going up there for some reason. Now I'm going to speed ahead a little bit here to a later stage in the game. And see, our Terran opponent is actually doing a reasonably decent job in gathering resources, but he's limiting himself to 2 bases, and I actually managed to successfully keep him on these 2 bases as time goes by. So here we once again, creep progressing nicely, spreading out well. Now I got control over pretty much that whole right hand side of the map, right half side of the map, which is extremely useful. Let's slow this down to normal speed and take a look at where we are. Okay, we're taking up to Hive now, because we have all the resources and time in the world. See, we have a nice healthy mineral lead, gas looking a little bit short. So I've got the second gas up there now as well, and about to saturate that as well. Important to keep up on the gas, because the late units are all gas heavy. Along come the Marines to take pot shots at my Overlord. And our Terran buddy is actually spending quite a bit of resources and effort building bioball units, which is completely normal for Terrans, really. And I will be pushing out a little bit down the line. So once you've got this creep spread out really nicely, what you need to do is start moving the line forward. See, my spine crawlers have gone forward, my mutalisks have stepped up a little to have shorter range to whatever is coming up. The roaches, I like to keep them a little bit far away, especially when the creep has spread nicely, because they are so fast on creep, just so fast. You can run from the other side of the map and catch up with whatever is nuking you with plenty of time. You don't need to be on the front lines at all times. So play it safe and play it smart. So now we have our mutalisks heading down to do a little bit of scouting on the front lines. These guys fly pretty quickly, so if they get into trouble, they can always just run back. So let's do a little recap. We started out with a big rush of Zerglings to make sure that our macro was working out well and our economy was solid. Came out with a little bit of Zerglings to do a bit of scouting. Saw that not a whole lot of anything was going on, so we didn't create any more Zerglings, and then transitioned directly to Roach and Mutalisk build, which is currently keeping our asses well in the clear against this Terran opponent. So he's putting down his third command center there. Now it takes me a little while to figure this out, and this is something I didn't do well, because I could easily have scouted that point after he shot down my overlord, and I didn't. So I saw this one a little bit later than I should have, quite by accident. So let's fast forward a little bit more. Get a look at the game coming up here. Now our Terran is massively building buildings. Look at these buildings. It's transitioned to a bunch of Vikings, and my Mutalisks are heading forward to do a little bit of scouting. We notice that there's a whole bunch of turrets. Managed to take one down, and then take down a few buildings around here before the Vikings notice us. Here they come to the attack, and I decide to engage here. And then away go my Mutalisks. Now while all this is happening, I am building. Hopefully I'm building. Apparently I'm taking it very easy. Alright, so let's see what's happening here. Mutalisks coming back, Vikings making a chase, and Roaches heading down as well. Now this became interesting. And here's another excellent reason why it's good to have this big economy running well. Because these Roaches don't do very well. Get a load of this. We're getting nuked by tanks, popped in, took out the odd building or unit or two. But in general, we're not really doing very well. This is kind of a failed rush forward. Let's see if the supply depot goes down. Oh, the suspense. Is it gonna die? No, it doesn't. It doesn't die. My Roaches die instead. And look at this, our entire Roach army just got totally annihilated, completely crapped out, wiped out, goners. I've got 3 directly in the building, and now suddenly 6. And this is why you want to have good economy and some extra lava, because the fact that those guys got wiped out made absolutely no difference, because here's the push coming through now, right, with some Marines in medevacs. And let's just see this one unfold. Let's see this one unfold, because now I was down to basically no units whatsoever, and suddenly I put up a couple of spine crawlers. I have an infestor or 2 on the way, and my Roach army is starting to replenish itself, and the guys have barely made it through the end of the map yet. Here they come for the drop. Let's see how this goes. Mutalisks hanging out doing nothing. They're finally woken up. They get into action. Roaches on the way? No. What is on the way? Nothing's on the way. In fact, the Mutalisks are doing all the work. Here they start going out. Now this looks dangerous, basically. Some infestors popped out. Some infested Terrans landing on the ground. We have overlords dying. Now this looks like a major tragedy. It looks like it might be over. Let's see how this goes. We've got some Marines hanging out in our base with the medevac. We've got Vikings making a snappy retreat. And what are we doing? At this point I actually thought, is this it? But as it turns out, it wasn't it. Here come more mutas that just popped out. Notice our massive mineral advantage here. There's just lots going on. Now this base has pretty much actually more or less done its thing. It's not a horrendous problem that that is being attacked, because these buildings are holding themselves out pretty well. Now we have our corruptors on the way. Now this was the transition that was necessary. You see, because I had so much lava and I've got so much money sitting around, I just pummeled out a bunch of corruptors. And the Vikings disappeared after being hit quite a lot by my spore crawlers, which I promptly put back into action. Alright, and basically the entire push was pushed back, and not a single building was lost. And this is the thing, you don't really need to have a huge amount of units. You need to have the right kind of units to counter whatever is coming at you. Well, and the right kind of units can be made in the last second. They don't necessarily need to be made in advance. So this entire massive ball of Vikings and whatnot that came at us just got pushed right back. And now my Corruptors are off for a little swing on the right on the side. And creep is constantly edging forward, ever so important. Now, when the Corruptors swing by here, this is actually the first time I start spying this base a little bit later on. I decide to park my Corruptors over here on the left while I make more of them. And here we have a massive SCV army heading this way. My goodness, what is that? That is like an incredible line. Got 2 control groups, or 1.5 control groups worth of SCVs. And there's Marines coming as well. They're trying to guard themselves into this third base. Because they're running out of minerals on their primary. Oh, they have run out of minerals on their primary. Or he has, rather. He's even run out of minerals on his secondary. My goodness. At this point, I really should have chosen to expand, and this is the mistake I did here. I could have expanded right at this point, but didn't choose to do that. So once again, I'm droning up, but most of my drone activity is happening on one base. Right, so there's, except for my gas, my minerals themselves aren't suffering that much. So far so good. Guy's beaten back. Now he starts building battle cruisers, and this is where the fun begins. At this point, you see, I've stopped building Mutalisks. I'm now transitioning into Roaches and Corruptors, which are going to be my endgame units of choice for this particular game. And in the third video that's going to come up here afterwards, I will show you how incredibly fantastic Corruptors are against any flying units that come thrown your way from Terrans. So we'll get to that in video number 3. Keep watching, we're almost there. The third and last video of Conquest. This end battle is definitely something well worth seeing. Thanks for watching all. More to come in just a moment. Bye bye for now.